This is the intro. When Joker was released, it was seen as both an attack on society and an instant classic, both being moderately accurate. As a brief synopsis of my opinion, this movie feels like it was designed specifically for me in mind. The story is about a struggling entertainer set in my favorite fictional world with equal parts comedians and old Italian actors, with references to my favorite era of filmmaking, the 1970s. The director, Todd Phillips, up to this point, was known for his dark comedies such as the Hangover franchise and Old School. Unfortunately, his career has taken a turn, being that comedy movies haven't been made for the past decade. Much like his comedy directing brethren, he went the way of horror. But unlike Jordan Peele, David Gordon Green, and Zach Cregger, who went on full horror, Todd Phillips veiled his attempt with psychology. I will say this before we get too into it. This movie shouldn't exist. This script was barely adhered to, and entire scenes, characters, and plot points were cut. As someone who's both been a part of, and in charge of, crafting narrative works, I'll say that from the outside looking in, the behind-the-scenes look I had into this abstraction became more and more confusing with the more research I did. Ironically, sending me into a spiral of madness akin to the protagonist of this film, simply because I couldn't make heads or tails of the mystery. This movie, researching this movie has made me a little crazy. Usually with scripts and movies, you can perfectly infer, A plus B equals C. This leads to this, leads to this. There is a clear structure and, there are ways things are normally supposed to flow. This did not follow any of that at all. They did not adhere to the script. It was purposefully designed to be cyclical, and if you were to look into it a little bit deeper, I think it was designed for you to be go a little mad. I'm not convinced that they knew what the secret sauce of this movie was. Obviously, Joaquin Phoenix is an excellent actor, but I'm not convinced that they knew how to make this again. They genuinely caught lightning in a bottle with this. This song is called Like, Comment, and Subscribe. That is out of tune. That is out of tune. In the end, all I could latch onto for support was knowing that the story needed to get out. I don't even know where to start. On the surface, this work isn't visually or narratively outstanding until you look underneath the red hood of this puppy. The structure of the piece is cyclical and purposely leads to dead ends and deeper mazes. Whether this was the intention of the filmmakers or a byproduct of creative negligence is unclear, which is unbelievably frustrating. The fact that this film was completed is nothing short of a miracle. Executive producers, or the money men funding this, usually want to see a completed script with clear goals to know that they'll hopefully get a return on investment should the boots on the ground capture what's written on the page. It seems Joker didn't do that. I read the script. In the script, there's entire scenes that are completely removed, completely new. There is a cat, an orange cat, that doesn't exist. Oh my god, now I'm thinking about it more and more, I'm like, oh, I'm just unearthing more stuff in my brain. It makes less sense the more you think about it. So, alright, in the original script, there is a cat that just exists in the background until the final scene in the apartment with Joker, where he opens up the door and the cat goes out and leaves. Turns out that the cat didn't exist. It was a figment of his imagination, which was a representation of his, broken psychology. Cool, got it. As a narrative device, it makes sense. Obviously, the movie didn't do that. They did something else. They did things that are way weirder.
And in the clouds.
I've also seen criticisms of the writer of this movie. The guy wrote The Fighter. The Fighter is a well-written movie. I actually really like The Fighter if you haven't seen it, with Christian Bale, a former boxer turned drug addict. Really solid movie. But to say the script was poor, one, they didn't adhere to the script. So there was no poor script. there was barely a script. Yeah, and like I said, the more research I did into this, I was following this movie before it came out like a hawk. I was so curious. I wanted to see where this was going because, again, it was shot in New Jersey, my home state. It dealt with all the same actors that I really liked. I love equal parts comedy, and I love equal parts mobster movies. So when I heard Joker was coming out, I was all for it. I was all for it. And then I saw his test screening, Joaquin Phoenix's test screening, which they don't release. That's just for the producers to see oh, okay, cool. This actor will do this with this character. They released it because they were so impressed with Joaquin Phoenix, literally just standing there. He was just standing in front of us Arthur Murray's like tapestry or whatever, the little curtain thing, and they released that to get people hype, and it got me hype. Overall, I love this movie. I think this movie is fantastic. I think this movie should be seen by most people, if not everyone. Obviously, like, young kids shouldn't see this movie. It's a little too messed up. But, like, you know, late teens, I think this is a fine movie for people to see. Obviously, I'm not your parent. Talk to your parents first. But I love this movie. I love a unreliable narrator. I love the discussion of mental illness. I love Batman, obviously, and a whole bunch of other things that, like, this movie touches base on. The very first Batman comic had the Joker in it. Batman and Joker are the same age. This was Detective Comics, I want to say 37. I could be wrong about that. But originally, Batman was supposed to be a guy like in a red suit, and Bob Kane, who you could argue is the creator of Batman, but really it was Bill Finger. It wasn't until recently, within the past, I want to say 15 years, that they actually gave this guy his credence. Bill Finger is the one who like redesigned the character, created the antagonists, so on and so forth. The character of Joker actually died in the very first comic. And then he showed up again later on, and it was like the twist of like, oh, the Joker's back, interesting, and then he dies again, and it just kept dying over and over again, and then he kept re-emerging. So like the character couldn't die. It was equal parts. The writers found him bizarrely interesting. They didn't know why they liked him, but they liked him. And audiences like finding a rhythm with the character as well. Which the character in modern years, obviously, like, you have like the trickster route, and you can go a whole bunch of different ways with the character, but in its core, the character is more or less a nihilist. And that's the discussion between Batman and Joker, where Batman represents the order in the world. I would argue sometimes tyrannical. It depends on the story you go into. You have Joker, who is the chaos. So you have the conversation between Batman and Joker, which is order and chaos. Other superhero people, like Spider-Man, like, his villains are usually just like some form of like an animal-based like villain. Like, you got Scorpion, Rhino, Vulture, a whole bunch of other different like animal-based things. Batman doesn't have that. His people are just a grab bag. The bats and clowns do not, like, they're not enemies in life. Bizarrely enough, Batman villains mostly are like Alice in Wonderland surrogates. You have Humpty Dumpty, Tweedledee Tweedledum, Mad Hatter. I'm pretty sure March Hare is a villain too. Also, Batman as a character is like super elemental. You can go the tragic hero route with Batman. I've seen that done. You can go the epic hero with Batman, where he just like goes and just he is the lone fighter in the city. You can also have a Western Batman. You can have a this Batman, a that Batman. He's so elemental. You could take the characters of Batman and then just put it in a different kind of setting, and it still works. There's Batman by Lamplight, which is a steampunk version of Batman. Or I've seen animes with Batman. I've seen a whole bunch of different stuff with Batman. You have the Killing Joke, which is the official, unofficial origin of Joker, where in the story, Joker is talking to the reader, or audience, however you want to consider it, and he's saying what his origin was, where he had a wife who was pregnant with a kid, and eventually he needed money as a stand-up comedian. He wasn't making money, and his wife was killed in the midst of him about to go into a crime, and then he just had a terrible tragedy, fell into a vat of acid which bleached his skin, which doesn't make sense because it's acid, he would just die. Anyway, whatever, it's a radioactive spider, let's get over it. He just has a really bad day, and then that's that. At the end of it, he says to Batman, if I'm going to have a past, I prefer it to be multiple choice. Which is essentially saying that it doesn't matter what my past is as Joker. It doesn't matter what my past is. It matters that I'm a crazy asshole now, and I'm just going to continue to do that. The scariest origin for me for the Joker is he just chose to do it one day. That's terrifying. He was a normal person, and he just did it. That's scarier to me, because like there is no logical through line, which with Joker there kind of usually isn't. It's always some kind of like rambunctious, like energetic, otherworldly presence. There was a reference to Ace Chemicals. Ace Chemicals is the chemical plant that Joker used to work at, that he was going to rob. I don't know why the there's money at a chemical plant, but whatever, we're gonna get over that. So Ace Chemicals was referenced in the Joker on the marquee in the background. At the very end of the movie, there's a marquee from, I believe it's Monarch. It had to have been Monarch Theater, which is where Batman's parents were. On the marquee, it says Ace something. It says Ace. When Joker is standing on top of there's a car and he does the blood smile. And eventually the Waynes are murdered in that riot. Also references The Man Who Laughs, and as well as my personal favorite Batman comic, The Dark Knight Returns. This scene at the end where Joker is at the talk show, that is plucked directly from The Dark Knight Returns. And actually, that's the inspiration for this particular outfit. Todd Phillips, the director, did Project X and a whole bunch of other things, which like always had, they were dark comedies, but they always had this like bizarre darkness and like dread in them. I don't know why. If you've seen The Hangover, like there are funny moments in it, don't get me wrong, but like the presentation and the visual language that was used in it was just so dour and like almost mean-spirited. It's an intangible quality that I can't really quantify. There is like a darkness and a mean-spiritedness to it, but also like a comedy aspect where you're just like, I don't know which way to go right now. It's a weird balancing act that like, I don't know if it pulls off. Because like, I'm like, I shouldn't be laughing at this right now. There's moments in Joker that do that, where like he's talking to the cops and they're like, we're investigating you, and like your mother's like, you know, in the hospital and this and that, and like you probably killed those dudes on the train. And he was like, whatever. And he throws a cigarette and he just smashes his face on a sliding glass door. It's just like a weird moment where it's just like, that shouldn't be funny, but it kind of is. But you're like, oh yikes. Another moment is in the very beginning where like Joker is beat up by kids for no reason other than they just did it. He's just laying on the ground and he's like whimpering and he's sad and it's terrible. But then you're like slowly zooming out, and then like he like grabs his ribs, the flower on his chest, like a little bit of water squirts out, because it's just like, oh god, like that's a moment where you're like, oh that's kind of funny. Like that's up, but it's funny. And like Todd Phillips with horror movies, like every comedy director in the past, like Jordan Peele, Zach Cregger, David Gordon Green, those guys, like they all went the horror route. And you're like, okay, why did these comedy people all go to the horror route? It's because like comedy and horror, like there is this genre of comedy horror. Comedy and horror deal with the same thing. It has to deal with surprise. Obviously, there are many other factors that deal with it, but like by and large, that is the biggest component to both horror and comedy. You take the narrative device of comedy, which is surprise, and you just reapply it to horror. It's just, instead of good surprise, which is like, oh, didn't see that coming, you take it as bad surprise of like, oh god, I didn't see that coming. Jump scares in horror movies, which is a cheap gimmick that sometimes it's necessary. Jump scares are basically like peekaboo. With babies, they have a grand old time with it. It's just like that's it. There's nothing more to it. Audiences in movie theaters, I guess, also like that.
Breaking news. Popular TV talk show host Murray Franklin shot dead tonight on the live telecast of his program by one of his guests.
Was shot to death tonight in a fusillade of automatic rifle fire just as he began this evening's broadcast.
It's common knowledge that the Joker movie was inspired and more or less cobbled together by influential pieces. Taxi Driver was a great inspiration for the film's unreliable first-person narrative. The King of Comedy influenced the plot of a struggling artist terrorizing his idol. Serpico, Dog Day Afternoon, and One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest all being felt throughout the piece as well. Not to mention the comic inspirations of The Dark Knight Returns, The Man Who Laughs, and The Killing Joke. Another movie of mine that I absolutely love Network. It was prophetic at its time, and it's unfortunate that it's like a hidden gem now. In Network, Howard Beale, he has a mental breakdown, goes on air, he's a news anchor, he goes on air and he says, I'm gonna kill myself next week. And everyone's like, okay, let's tune in. Which was inspired by the real life politician Bud Dwyer, who kills himself. He shot himself, pulling a gun out of a manila envelope and just blasted his own brain out. Insane. So then he has a moment with God, and God tells him the truth. And, you know, he has a mental breakdown. And he eventually just starts spouting out the truth, obviously, but it also comes out as like incoherent, aggressive nonsense. But the thing is, like, everyone in New York also agreed with him. I don't even like coffee. Like, comment, and subscribe.
This feeling so awful, right, Mommy?
Yes, we can hear you, Gigi.
It's so awful, Mom. Right, Mommy?
The acting, Joaquin Phoenix does a stellar job. His acting was out of this world. Even in the second one, his performance was super solid. It's just that they didn't have a good direction to go with that one. The one major criticism that I will voice for this movie is Zazie Beetz' character. Her performance, even though she's a fine actress, there's nothing wrong with her, her performance was too modern. For a 1970s performance, you needed more of a Shelley Duvall kind of character, or like somebody a little more downtrodden or serious. Her character seemed way too modern and like jovial for the situation that she was in. I understand that most of her performance was an internal dream sequence of Joker, and that she wasn't a true character. But her performance, I don't believe that is what Joker wanted out of another human being. Even when she was on screen as the figment of his imagination, I was just like, I understood like immediately. It's like, oh, she's not real. There's no way. Nobody would act like this. Which kind of takes me out of the experience, because it's like the winding narrative of like what's real, what's not. Like when he's at the Arthur Murray show and Arthur Murray's like, come on up. It's like, okay, that 100% is not real. But leading up to it, you're like, I don't know. Maybe he did go to see Arthur Murray. Maybe we did cut. We don't know yet. But with the Zazie Beetz' character, I don't think anyone of that time, at least like from my perception in movies, nobody acted like that. I've never seen an actress from that time period act in that way.
You're so funny, Arthur.
The scene that solidified it for me, up to this point, Joaquin Phoenix, in the beginning of the movie, I'm like, okay, this is like, he's doing a solid job. Like, you know, he's acting, he's doing a good job. Like, I appreciate it. The scene that put the first knot in my stomach was when he's in the bathroom. And like, it goes down and you see his foot. And the entire time I'm like, oh God, don't do anything. And he started dancing. And I'm like, this is so weird. And like, it grossed me out. I was like, I genuinely felt a knot in my stomach of like, oh God, what is this movie going to do? Quentin Tarantino said it the best, where it's just like, if you saw this in the theater, you saw this movie. If you did not, if you saw it at home, you didn't see this movie. Because you needed to feel the silence in the theater before he's about to kill Murray Franklin. Because everyone in the movie, everyone in the theater wanted it to happen. It's just, they shouldn't have. The movie conditioned you to think like a nutbag, like Joker. And it worked. And the entire time I'm like sitting in, because I read The Dark Knight, and I'm watching the talk show, and I'm like, he's going to kill him. He's not going to kill himself because it's Batman. And of course the Joker's not going to kill himself. He's going to kill Murray Franklin. It's like, and he doesn't deserve to die, but I kind of want to see it. And then it happens. You're like, oh God. I feel dirty. Like, I feel dirty for wanting this.
While the audience in the movie theater is watching the Joker, they want him to kill Robert De Niro. And if the Joker didn't kill him, you would be pissed off.
Yeah.
That is subversion on a massive level. They got the audience to think like a lunatic.
He died Overdose. He died in New York. I warned him.
It's said frogs won't jump out of a boiling pot of water if you slowly and gradually increase the temperature. Narratively, this is an interesting concept, one that the creators of Breaking Bad wanted to explore, by taking the mild-mannered Walter White and transforming him into a maniacal terror. Joker does something similar. Over the course of the film, Arthur Fleck commits many acts of violence and terror. The first we see on screen is of the subway passengers. Wire-drunk finance bros on a scummy subway singing show tunes, who's to say? But the important thing is the filmmakers presented their murder as almost justified. The first is killed instantly by attacking a seemingly defenseless working clown. The second dies shortly after due to internal bleeding from a gunshot wound to the chest. The third, on the other hand, runs away in fear. Then Arthur chases him down and kills him in cold blood after he begs for his life. Although an audience knows this action is wrong, for the most part, we accept it as just one of those things. The reason I bring this up is for the scene that gave me the largest knot in my stomach. Originally, Arthur was written to run into a bathroom and hide the gun, but the actor and director thought the move wasn't correct. Instead, the director showed a piece of music to the actor, and eventually the bizarre bathroom ballet was discovered. The reason this scene is so unnerving is because of the clear mental illness on display. This action, after killing 3 people, whether it was justified or not, is so foreign to any well-to-do member of society. The synaptic map you'd need to discover it is unfathomable to me. In my opinion, this is the perfect microcosm of what this film is about. Broken thoughts on display in filth after acts of confused violence.
How's your job? Are you having any negative thoughts? All I have are negative thoughts.
There are a couple things in this movie that we don't have answers to. One, why was Arthur locked up in the beginning of the movie? Because he says to the social worker, I felt better being locked up. Why was he locked up? We never find that out, which is a good thing. I'm okay with a movie just not explaining everything. I appreciate not knowing what that is. I find it curious. I want to know. I do want to know, but I find it so curious. Why does the boss not trust him? What did he do in the past to warrant that boss not trusting him? Also, why does he even have a job at this place? Obviously, he wants to be an entertainer, so something adjacent to a comedian would be clowns. But that being said, is the clown job getting a tax credit from the government by hiring him because he's, I would imagine on the books disabled in some kind of a way? Why, another thing is, why is the social worker so dismissive of Arthur? This whole world is just, very, negatively minded and just, kind of dour. And it's okay, I understand that, Gotham as a city, always has, this presence of dread. But this kind of goes beyond that because, usually within the wider context of Gotham, there's people who are trying to fight and, fight back of the evil. But, in this angle, it's you can't help but just keep plunging further and further down. So I'm just the people around Arthur is just I find curious. These are not bad questions to have. These are just questions that the movie wanted you to have going into it because it's they want you to invite you into the imaginative creation of the movie as well. Maybe he robbed a liquor store or something like that, or he seems nonviolent up to this point, but maybe he wasn't. We don't know. So let's see where it goes. Joker as a film is a complex ball of lies strung together to manipulate its audience into sympathizing with a cold-blooded murderer. Not the first of its kind, but a great introduction to a young audience. While the world was clamoring for its next bump of superhero spectacle, people settled in to watch what they believed to be more sophisticated. Little did they know that their morals would be reshaped over the next 2 hours. And here are the clues as to why the film has lied to you. Joker is given a .38 revolver, which can only hold 6 bullets. After Arthur is attacked on the subway, he defends himself by firing off 9 shots, which was the filmmaker's subtle hint to suggest the subjectiveness of this narrative. It's clear that they went out of their way to challenge the audience to decide what was real and what wasn't. He has multiple hallucinations of Murray. There's a scene where Joker crawls into a refrigerator. This was completely improv on part of Joaquin Phoenix. And then in the 1970s, refrigerators couldn't be opened from the inside. This shows that he is both suicidal and that you cannot trust the narrative. Also in the film, the titular character is portrayed as being ambidextrous. Arthur Fleck writes horrible jokes in his journal with his right hand, but there is one joke in the journal that is sloppily written with his left. This is the joke the movie centers on, because in that moment he could have killed Arthur Murray, but instead he sees the left-handed joke written in his journal and decides to take his violence outwards. Another thing is, I'm not convinced that the cigarette's real. Because, there are scenes where he has it, it's usually in his left hand. Which, him as an actor, I want to say he's right-handed, I could be wrong. But the character of Arthur Fleck is right-handed, only because when he writes in his journal, he's using his right hand for the most of it. Most of the time, he's using his left hand to smoke a cigarette, too. It seems that the things that he does well, the things that are, productive in society, are done with his right hand, and, things that he does negatively are with his left. It's just a weird idiosyncrasy that I've noticed in the film. In the sequel, you find out that the girlfriend character is alive. Which, in my opinion, in my headcanon, I thought he killed her immediately, after, going into her apartment, and she's like, what are you doing here? Who are you? You're the guy from down the hall. How's your mother? The scene immediately after that, you hear sirens. I originally thought it were cop sirens, but after rewatching it, I think it's ambulance. But I thought the cops were investigating her apartment for a murder, but that was not the case. Also, you as an actress, you as a character, okay, somebody breaks into your apartment and he's mentally unwell. You don't call the cops. Like, he's wanted for murder. Like, she obviously didn't know that, but like, he's like being investigated for murder. You don't think to, like, with your child sleeping in the next room over, you don't think to call the cops on this guy. Very weird. That's why, like, I thought she didn't survive, because like he killed her. But like, again, it's an unreliable narrator, so you know, that wasn't the case.
Does that sound good to you?
Yeah, that sounds great.
Stairs in film are a unique metaphor. They're mostly used to portray hardship, whether it's overcoming hardship like Rocky or plummeting into darkness like Father Karras. Joker used both visual metaphors to show the hardship of Arthur's daily fight to overcome his life's difficulties, as well as dancing merrily down into madness. Obviously, this stemming from the understanding that things high up towards the heavens are hard to get to, and admirable goals to achieve, whereas things down low, towards the recessed gutter of hell, are to be reviled. Life is difficult, requiring us to consistently fight against the entropy of the universe. The film masterfully inverted our perception of what is just and true as compared to what is lowly and disdainful. The scene on the steps being a perfect microcosm of this concept, whereas charging up the steps in Rocky is admirable, in Joker it's painful. While Father Karras' leap from the window in The Exorcist to send a demon into hell is an admirable trait, the implications of his ultimate fate are left ambiguous, while Joker's descent is an act of celebration. Up is good, down is bad. In this, it flips it on its head. Another common motif in this film is the countdown that occurs in the background of the film. As the story progresses, there are numbers hidden behind Arthur to signify a transformative moment. Joker kills his first victims on 9th Avenue. Joker breaks into apartment 8. Joker discovers his mother's medical records on the 7th floor. Joker runs from the cops on platform 6. So on and so forth until Joker stands atop the riding crowd with Ace behind him. Another thing that I find interesting is just like, the movie's just filthy. The trash, there was trash building up, which is like a great concept for Gotham. There are rats just in the city. This movie's so good with just like little tiny microcosms, which I really appreciate. Before there's any dialogue, you read "everything must go," which is, again, another microcosm of what Joker is. It's just like everything he believed in his life, gotta go. Complete nihilism, nothing means anything, just get rid of it. Then when he's in the green room at the Murray Franklin show, the room, which it's a green room, like there shouldn't be numbers for these rooms, but this one had it. It said 404, which if you know anything about the internet, it's like 404 not found. You have everything must go, and then everything is gone. We have no idea where this is. It's gone, missing.
Until a little while ago, it was like nobody ever saw me. Even I didn't know if I really existed.
Arthur, I have some bad news for you.
You don't listen, do you?
In the script, it is written that the social workers look bizarrely similar to one another. The movie is like supposed to be cyclical. So the opening sequence more or less is him talking with the social worker. And you're like, okay, cool, got it, perfect. This is where we're beginning. And then it ends with him talking to, I'm assuming, a psychologist, if not a social worker. They're supposed to look similar to one another to bookend the story. Because it's like, okay, was any of that real? Did the entire movie, did it make sense? Did it work? Was anything?
Do you want to tell it to me?
You wouldn't get it.
This movie feels like a painting that was like large, but then they just shrunk it down. And like now only this portion is framed instead of like what the true painting is. That makes it a more interesting painting, because it's like there's stuff that we're missing and I want to know what that is, but you'll never know what that is. Todd Phillips in interviews has even said there's 100 movies in here because they did so many takes of stuff. There's clips I've seen online where Joaquin Phoenix is just like walking out from behind the curtain onto the Murray Franklin show. And it's just like he comes out dancing. There's some where he just like kind of hides and he's kind of meek and like childish. And like there's so many different like variables and like different ways he did it, to the point where it's just like, did we even watch a movie? Like, I don't even know. Like, it's such a unique experience. thanks for watching. I hope this was coherent in any kind of way. I kind of feel like a failure only because I wasn't able to properly dissect this movie. Oh God, I don't even know if the filmmaker knew what they were doing, which is a good thing. That's what you want in this type of film. Like, you want it to be like disjointed and like kind of like nonsensical, and that way the pieces don't actually match up. Like, comment, and subscribe. Oh gosh, I got a cramp. What was your takeaway from Joker? What did I miss? Because I guarantee you I probably missed a lot. There's a whole bunch of crap in here. Like, am I getting this wrong? Let me know. Yeah, that's basically it. I'll see you next time, guys.